We're live.
Hola Madridistas, welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Real podcast. If you guys are new here, don't forget to smash the like and subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 4K. Big up our sponsors as always. Talksport Fan Network. As you all know, Talksport is the biggest sports radio station in the world. Everything on LBR is officially powered by the Talksport Fan Network. Also, big up Fanatics, official partners of La Liga and Real Madrid. Make sure you use the affiliated link in the description below so that they know you guys came through us. But yeah, Farouk, a historic night in many ways. On the positive note, this is the first away victory in Greece for us. It's crazy to think that we had a draw and a loss. So far, in the Champions League history in terms of visits to the Greek sides. But this game was tricky, right? I mean, going off of the back of three winless games, all comps, Liverpool and La Liga included. This was a game where we knew we were going to be tested. Olympiacos are a great side. They have Mendelaba, who has quite a good knowledge about La Liga because he has a lot of experience in La Liga. And we were missing some key figures in the back line. So it was always going to be a night where we would be out of sorts. We would look out of depth. But in totality, there is definitely a few positives. Namely Mbappe and Vinicius by far. But uh, at the same time, not really surprised, right, Farouk?
Yeah, honestly, it's as you mentioned, it's been a run of four consecutive away matches. We were winless in three coming into this game.
Yeah.
It's a game that we started really badly. Like could have been 2-0 down in the first 10, 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden, like wasn't the attack was like we were just back again, and so we have like
Mhm.
the regular issue we always have at the back, like it's just a crossing into the box, and all of a sudden like no one knows how to
Yeah.
do anything. So yeah, it's for me a feeling like we might talk about we had like we were missing players as you were talking about, but this is nothing new.
Mhm.
Like I mean, this is something that has been there since the first year of Carlos, era. Like we've always been unable to defend set pieces. So it's been 5 years and we still have the same problem. So yeah, it's not surprising to see basically a makeshift back line also, struggle to defend that. But yeah, very good performances from Kylian Mbappe. Very, very encouraging performance from Vinicius Junior as well. But that's it, like this is just a thing with this team, right? Like they always like for every question they answer, there'll be develop. I mean, they pose you a new question again, to scratch
Mhm.
your head more or less. But yeah, at least a win is a win. That's just a thing for now.
Yeah. It was funny, right? I mean, Olympiacos, all credit to them, backed by a great home support. I've known a few, Greek mandem in my life personally, and they are really, really passionate football fans, right? I mean, they take it seriously. Panathinaikos fans, they can't stand, the guys from Olympiacos and whatnot. So, like, I know it's a very well cultured country in terms of football, and they take their football pretty seriously. So we knew what to expect, right, going away to Greece. But when you look back at the last 5 to 10 minutes, Farooq, we are hanging on to our dear lives, right? Um, a side that's close to half a billion, right, in terms of expenditure, wages and transfer fees and all of that included. This was a side that's close to a billion in terms of their um, overall, worth. And we had to basically rely on El Khabi missing, you could say, a big chance, right? I mean, he had a couple of pot shots, but if you remember the first time Chansey kind of glanced wide, in my opinion, if he has a bit more composure, finds the back of the net, and it's a completely crazy game, which I honestly think again, mounts insurmountable pressure on Xabi Alonso. like he's not under a lot already, right? But like Ashik was mentioning in the chat, Fede played 90 minutes. Why? He was rubbish. You could say, it's debatable. Fede had a few. I'll put it this way: game-saving interventions in terms of him trying to manage the pressure and him basically driving with the ball in our midfield was one of our main ways to get out at times. Because if you remember, guys like Joe Mini were scratching their heads. If you remember, Farouk, like towards the end of the game, Chouameni is basically being closed on by two men. There's absolutely no support. Like he's in a corner. He's basically crying out for help. There's no one there to basically offer any kind of support. Either dropping deep or just making a run or creating an angle for him to get out. It's crazy. I kind of feel for Fede at times. This is a system where he doesn't really know if he's a right winger or a center midfielder, Farouk. Like, do you feel the same? Because when I watch him, it's basically Arda Güler and Fede Valverde constantly rotating and then basically playing according to the situation. Like, I don't think it necessarily benefits either of them in the grand scheme of things. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you think about it.
It might be beneficial, but definitely doesn't benefit Fede Valverde at all. And I think it's been well documented that he's one of the players who, are not very comfortable and happy with, the tactics, or rather the direction and their role in it from Xavi Alonso. And it's very obvious. Again, you watch this game, and I'm completely on our six sides as well. You look at the game today, and we're just wondering, okay, what's Fede doing? Honestly, there is no point. I mean, when you make all these substitutions, Fede should have been one of the ones who was gone, honestly. I mean, even when Dani Ceballos came on, I wasn't. It should have been for Fede or something like that. This is just it. This is the point that you're in right now with Fede Valverde, as you're saying. Of course, him not knowing what he needs to do or not understanding exactly what is required of him is also part of the problem. But this is something that I never thought we would ever see of Fede Valverde. This is a player that no matter the situation, he's played various roles for Carlo Ancelotti, and he's always looked like a wall beater. All of a sudden now, we have him here, and we don't even know how he fits into this team. What does he offer this team right now? We actually don't know. It's quite strange, and these are some of the things that needs to be ironed out, honestly.
When we used to have discussions, and I'm pretty sure you were here as well, when Mo, me, you, Jacob, all of us, when we used to sit down and talk about Fede, I used to be very vocal about the fact that he really needs to step up his overall distribution and overall passing game. Yes, he can ping a long ball, long diagonal to great effect, but apart from that, how well can he really, be that. Not exactly a guy who dictates a tempo, but just being an above average midfielder in terms of his overall passing arsenal, and how much can he really be that go-to guy in midfield, not just in terms of his directness, stretching lines. We all know that Fede Valverde is incredibly talented in that regard, but on the flip side, what a conventional midfielder brings to the table, Fede Valverde, at times he struggles. And that's why I thought, okay, finally, a right-wing position, in terms of his starting position tonight, I thought that would bring the best out of him, like we saw, when we won the Decimo Quarta. But yeah, this whole switcheroo at times completely, takes Fede out of the game, and he looks visibly frustrated. I feel for him. And again, it's another case of there's all sorts of rumors coming out, people trying to convince the fans. I'm not trying to blame anyone, but this is just honestly ridiculous when I read stuff like the club completely backs Xabi. He's the boss. There is no intervention from the board. There is no politics involved. But this is clearly, if it's not politics, it's favoritism. I mean, how can Xabi Alonso have a soft side for so many key players? He's been barely in the job for 3 months, right? So this is just how dressing room dynamics works. I guess some players, even though they're having mid performances, they are let off the hook a lot more easier than others, and they kept on just because of their track record and the credit in their bank, you name it. There's a myriad of factors involved. But the other thing that really, again, Ashik mentions it, like bringing on Brahim for Asensio. Asensio was our only recognized centre back, right, Farouk? Why would you do that, right? Like, are we in such a comfortable position where we know this is a great Real Madrid side? Okay, this is an off night, right? Olympiacos are playing at home. They have a good few, experienced players like Taremi, like El Kabi, Podens. There's some quality there. Jelson Martins, who have been around for God knows how long. These guys know how to play ball, but this isn't that Madrid side, right? Like where we are high flying and we are kind of coming up against an Olympiacos side who is having their night of the season. This wasn't that team, right? This was a team that's struggling to find their feet, that looks out of sorts every time we play somewhat decent opposition. So how can you really be in a position to take off one of your recognized centre backs and put on Brahim and plug Chouameni, again, a makeshift centre back alongside another makeshift centre back in Carreras? The less said about him, the better. But all that really makes him look super naive, Farouk. Especially in a position of such high demands.
No, I mean, I actually for this game I don't see that because like what did Asensio breathe you show you any confidence that make you feel like, oh, we'd rather have him on the pitch than throwing as a centre back? I actually didn't feel that. So for me, like that sub was warranted. Like I mean, either him or Carreras or even Ferland Mendy, Trent, like all of the defenders. Like I mean, if either of them had gone off, I actually had zero qualms about that. But the question is also about like the impact. I mean, for my opinion, it's the player that came on, right? So it's the impact that a player like Brahim had was absolute minimal, and I felt like they're pushing us backward. We need someone to to actually like keep them engaged. And in that case, you need an attacker, who's gonna just either occupy them by being a physical presence in form of a proper nine, or
take off
you bring on
Fede,
a player like Rodrigo, just to try to
take
like
off Gola.
run
But Gola came on
run
earlier,
through the
right?
channels or something like this. So
Yeah. I mean, you're right.
so
You're right in that regard.
I have no worries about that. Just the point is just like the players you're bringing on, like, okay, what do they offer? Like, how are they able to stretch this position? Because basically, like, Olympiacos were trying to play like last year's Barcelona, just go high up on the pitch, pressure Madrid, and you just, force them into like turnovers and stuff like that. And it worked for the first 10, 15 minutes, before all of a sudden we were able to, like beat the offside traps and stuff like that. But that was their plan, and it worked for a while. And then in the second half as well, when they got back in the game, that was their plan again, as you were just talking about, like Chouameni was with the ball cornered, basically suffocated, and there was no way out. But you need to find someone that's gonna stretch that line, keep their defenders occupied, keep their fullbacks occupied. So unfortunately, like we couldn't get that from most of the subs that came on.
I mean, I've no disagreements with you thinking that what is really a sense you're gonna save us from, right? Because he was susceptible again, for multiple goals. That's a completely different topic. But for me, even taking off someone like Fede, someone like from the attackers, or someone else apart from the center back pairing who is already struggling would have made more sense, because right after he went off, basically it's Chouameni again who is being beaten down the wing. I mean, that it's not like it wouldn't have happened if it was Asensio, but it just feeds into my anxiety watching the side, because no matter who it is, like basically had to resign to the conclusion that even if we had Rudiger, even if we had Alaba, in this setup, right, in this system where so many of the players are second guessing what to do, and so many players are kind of out of their depth and trying to figure out games as they go, I don't think any centre back pairing, at their peak powers would really save us, because if they're on it, our midfield wouldn't be on it. If the midfield is on it, our wing backs wouldn't be on it. Because honestly, Trent, again, like you mentioned, Farouk, I was backing him last game against Elche because I thought he was one of the bright spots. But tonight, he literally jogs back. We all know this, but how much does it put us under pressure? It's crazy. If you really let him do this in high profile games, how long can he go on without taking the brunt of the criticism? If you go back to the first goal, is he even in the frame, Farouk, when they make that brilliant play, 3 passes in quick succession, and
He was there.
Chuquinho, he was there, right? Um, yeah, man. So many players that we have, they have the tendency to turn their backs, or yeah, like apart from maybe Chouameni, even Fede looks completely off it. Like I've seen Chouameni do it recently a bit more, but apart from him, no one else really has the spidey sense, if I may call it that, because they just don't know what's going to happen. They can literally see the guy lining up the shot. It's basically a surprise when he lets one off and Luna is beaten. And again, I feel for the goalie here, because he's thinking that there's 3-4 men in front of me. The angle should be definitely covered. It shouldn't be up to me. There's a 1 in 10 chance of that actually making it past the crowd into the corner. It's crazy, man. And this is not the last time we're going to see it, right, Farouk? This is going to happen every time. We saw it against Elche as well. It's mental how passive we are at defending. It's always been about the collective effort, right? Defending. We can't solely be blaming the back line all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. But also the question on begs, like, I mean, for the first goal, for instance, like I understand what you're saying, that it's always a collective effort, and I think that's also a problem that we're still facing till now. But
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the first goal, like literally, like Asensio, uh, Trent, Carreras, like they were unable, like they were like scared of committing themselves to the game,
Mm-hmm.
to the play. Like basically,
Mm-hmm.
Olympiacos was passing and moving so fast, and our defense was just static, standing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, they were static,
Yeah.
standing. They were like flat-footed, move. They don't. I'm not even sure if they were seeing the ball. Like it was.
Mm.
I don't. Yeah, it was basically a game of kids against boys for that first goal, which is very shambolic, especially at this high level. I understand like centre backs are missing and all that. For
Mm-hmm.
the crosses, honestly, like I can't say anything because I know that, as I said earlier, like even with Rudiger in his prime, with Militao in his pomp, with Alaba, we still considered this set pieces. I sorry, these crosses and whatever. So I'm not saying anything about those, but at least for that first goal, come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like for the first goal, they also the second chance they had in that first 10, 15 minutes, like that was purely on the defenders, man. Like you can't say anything to anyone. Like that's purely on the defenders. You need to move fast. You need to anticipate. You need to, commit to
Yeah.
tackles. You need to, like communicate, stretch, cut the passing lanes and stuff like this. But no, like they were just allowing, the Olympiacos players to literally pass and move around and then receive again and move around and receive again and move around. Like, come on. Like this
Mm-hmm.
is not something that you should be seen at this level of football. But I don't know, man. Honestly, it's just quite unfortunate that, as you said, like, okay, today now we saw like Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius actually light it up, and then all of a sudden the defenders go asleep. So yeah, it's just unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Nigga Metro TV was mentioning, man, this team gives me a heart attack. What the fuck is this defending? I mean, how can you really put this into perspective without really going into the other goals we considered, right? Obviously, of crosses. I mean, Farouk has given up on it. I've given up on it, but I just have to still go back to better days, better days in our lives where we used to be a little more adept at dealing with it, because since I used to speak to Carlos' assistant a lot, Francesco used to really go into the nitty gritty in terms of setting up for defensive set pieces, even the attacking ones, how we defend it in transition, if we lose the ball in the opposition box. So I just know for a fact, when I see a team that is confident enough, there can be lapses in concentration. That's completely normal. It can happen to anyone. It used to happen to Ramos quite a lot. It used to be Ramos's greatest strength. I would call, apart from his leadership, it was his ability to rectify his own errors, in real time, in basically a matter of nanoseconds. That was Ramos's greatest asset. So this is completely normal that people have, brain farts. But I know a side that is decent and able enough to actually defend set pieces and crosses into the box when I see one. It can be a matter of, Militao not being a good reader of situations like those, Alaba not being particularly great in the air. Rudiger, despite all his, physical traits, isn't the greatest, a detector of aerial threat, if I must say. Um, in a well-designed system like we had when we won the double under Carlo for the second time, I knew that there was a system in place. There was a method in place to how we defended set pieces, and we actually looked so much better. Despite missing so many key players throughout the season to injury, we didn't have Thibaut, who used to be, the guy who used to come and collect, every uh, half chance, half-hearted cross into the box. There was Lunin, who wasn't necessarily the most commanding. We used to come into a bit of uh, pressure when people used to, like, for example, the in swing into the box. It used to sometimes catch Lunin off guard. I get it, but that side overall looked a lot more comfortable in dealing with situations like this. Tonight, I mean, if you remember,
bro, like
mm,
this is like revisionism, bro. Definitely not.
for me, for me,
Definitely not. This is
for
revisionism, bro.
me,
Like
that
definitely
side
not,
was a lot
bro.
better. But I don't know. I
Nah,
don't know.
definitely not,
Compared to
bro. Like
this, Farouk,
absolutely,
lot better, lot better, lot
nah,
better.
bro.
Mm.
Bro, literally every cross, even during the double winning season, the first season where Jude came, every cross was like a penalty for the opposition. That's just it.
Mm.
Teams were
I don't
firing in
agree with that,
crosses
but
and we were unable to defend. We were unable to defend set pieces or whatever. I don't know where
mhm.
you're getting all this from, but now, bro, like this is pure revisionism, man. Under Carlo, the defense was better because like
That's the.
Rudiger played at a all-time level in that second
No,
season
I
of his. He played at an
no, I
all-time
get what
level.
you mean,
I'm
but
not
this
gonna,
wasn't like it wasn't like
but
this
when
though.
it comes
Every
to
half,
crosses,
nah,
no,
man,
bro.
I don't think so because I know for a fact. Yeah, we
When it
used to be
comes to
susceptible. Like
crosses,
I
because the
literally
point is
told you that.
you're
Hmm.
comparing apples and oranges, right? You're comparing apples and oranges. Like Rudiger was playing at an all-world level. Rudiger hasn't even played for Xavi Alonso yet in an integrated system. Militao is
Hmm.
back from an injury again, gone to injury. Like so, even the defense was better because, as I said, Rudiger was playing at an old-world level. That's just it. Like even with
Housen
injuries
is
or
supposed to be
whatever,
one of the
Rudiger
best
was a
in Europe aerially.
Rudiger
He
was
looks
a
absolutely shit in our system. Farouk, this is the truth.
yeah. Like Hoysen has a lot of problems, not just aerially. Or like there of Hoysen should be a ball-playing center
We are
back as well,
talking
but
about
he's
the
also
aerial threat, right? Like, so in
he's
my opinion, like
yeah.
you
I'm
can
I'm just saying
completely
like
disregard this.
it's
Mm,
not about the fact that like Hoysen is
mm,
like performing like extremely well in other facets of the game and he's only bad aerially. Actually,
yeah.
he was good aerially at the Club World Cup for some instances, but like so far this season he's been blowing hot and cold. The point I'm trying to make here is the fact that Hoyson has not been playing up to standards. Either it's like his distribution, his tackles, also his aerial play. It's not like, oh, he's
Hmm.
doing everything perfectly and then like he cannot defend aerial, you know.
Hmm.
He's not been up to he's not been up to par, he's not been up to standard in certain games. Same thing for Carreras and all that. But just the point I'm
Hmm.
trying to make here is that Anna, like this is just revisionism when you come and be like there was a system to like defend set pieces and we were better and stuff like that. Nah, I just don't think so, man.
I have to disagree. I think we can agree to disagree,
We
right?
were
I mean, you
shit
feel it
on the
differently.
crosses.
I feel differently because you said every cross into the box was a pen. It might seem like that, but I'm pretty sure watch how it unfolds this season. Unless things don't improve drastically, we are going to concede a lot many goals. You can literally look up the stat how many goals we conceded from set pieces, corners, free kick crosses into the box, or crosses in open play compared to this season. You could just do a comparison. You would know because I know for a fact because I used to speak to the very guy who used to design the tactics. So, but yeah, that's just my opinion. You might have you saw the same games I did. It's okay. It's good that we can actually talk about it. But yeah, this year for me particularly looks pretty disastrous when it comes to aerial balls. If you remember, towards the end of the first half, Farouk Ilunin had to make that last ditch save to keep out El Kabi because if it wasn't for that, it would have been already a game that's far and away well out of our reach. But thankfully, Ilunin kept us in the game. But second half, we start with a lot more intent. If you remember the Vinicius chance just wide. Um, but then right after that, it's the chance where, Taremi, who comes on for the injured Chiquinho, scores a header. If you watch that play, there's Trent in the equation, there's Raul Asensio in the equation, there's Mendy and Ceballos basically trying to, close down the guy who is putting the cross in. What are these men doing for? They are being paid top dollars, right? They're one of the most well-paid players on the planet. If they can't do the basics, how are we supposed to even go into a game that's remotely close to important, thinking that we have a chance? Because if Olympiacos, a side that has a lot of players who are bygone their expiry date can do this to us, like how much damage can a City do to us in a couple of weeks with Haaland, in their side? I have no idea. I have no idea because it looks at times like these guys, just can't read the game quick enough.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like again, as we talked about, it's the quickness, it's how the speed. Because the problem started with the first instance when Fred actually allows the cross to come into the box, and then all of a sudden, but in no man's land with Trent and Asensio. So like it's basically the reaction. You first react to the cross, and then you react to like, okay, the ball is man. How do we prevent Taremi? Of course, this is who the target is going to be. Like you don't allow Taremi speed of reaction, honestly, and this is something that honestly, like we're lacking a lot. We're lacking a lot, especially today from the defenders. And I really don't know, I wish I can, say to you confidently that, oh yeah, they'll be able to like do something to disrupt how right now. But yeah, let's see. There's still there's still a month, I guess, before we play City. Or no, rather, sorry, a couple of weeks before we play City. So maybe we might still see, an improvement in the defense. Who knows, but
You're breaking up for me quite a bit. Is it my internet, Farouk, or is it yours?
Okay, what happened? I was breaking up?
Yeah, might be my internet. I have no idea. But yeah, I lost you for a bit there. But yeah, I completely agree, man. Like, nobody can really be confident in us, basically doing the basics, because these are basics, right? I mean, this is why I miss the old school defenders, right, Farouk? I mean, you are also a fan of the old school way because we have spoken a lot over the years, and I feel like you would tend to agree to this. If you remember, guys like Pepe, they used to put their head through fucking metal, right, to clear the ball. Like I particularly remember, so many games where it's people attempting a shot. He is there with his head. He's willing to die. We need characters like that. I mean, it's as much the defensive awareness and technical ability as it is pure willingness to, put your body on the line. I say this so often because I see so many of our players being passive and meek, man, and weak. It's honestly frustrating because Mehdi Taremi, you all know what he's about, right? Like he is a tall target man, 6'3" plus. He's been around the block for years. We all know, heading is one of his assets. So what would you do in Trent's position and Raul Asensio's position? You can't maybe out jump him, right, when the ball is coming in, which is a perfectly weighted cross, right? But at least you should attempt to throw him off his stride when he's attempting to, make contact with the ball. Just put him off his stride, like make it a bit more difficult. It's the same case with the other goal. El Kabi is being played in behind, right? He has all the time in the world. Take a touch, play the ball out wide to Strafezza, a winger, who had another brilliant game again. So many Olympiacos players who actually had really, really good games. Strafezza actually goes out wide, takes a couple of touches. He's faced up against Chouameni. He cuts inside and puts in a brilliant cross. All this while, where El Kabi, who played the ball out out to the wing, strolls into the box with Carreras, Trent, Raul Asensio, Chouameni, not Chouameni, I mean, Ceballos, all these guys just on looking. It's mental to me, how you can literally see a guy who's basically has played the ball out of the wing, stroll past you into a pretty dangerous position, receive the ball and head it back of the net. Like, how can you just stand there without doing nothing, Farouk? It really bothers me. These are basics, Farouk. We are not expecting Ramos, Maldini stuff, man. This is pretty bare bones, basic stuff when it comes to marking your box. It's insane to me how this happens on the regular now.
Yeah, bro. Like honestly, like I don't know. Like the only positive that I try to take from this game is the fact that okay, like we're missing the big guns, man. Like at least when you look at this starting lineup, like the all the back four pairing looks very weird and out of place. Like uh, hopefully, I don't know, as the season goes on, we can get some players back. Rudiger back, Militao back. Carreras can play in his position. Like maybe Carvajal comes back, displaces Trent Alexander-Arnold. So at least the back line will look completely different. Like so that's the one. Uh, I don't know. That's the one thing that I would say at least gives me the positive. Otherwise, like really, like looking at the combination of all this, it's very bleak, bro. Like honestly, it's not looking good at all, really. Like because I just don't see the way forward with this guys. I really don't know like how you proceed playing. Like Carreras as your left-sided center back, Raul Asensio as a right-centered center back. With Trent, and we all know the deficiencies that Trent has. As also, it's really, really going to be difficult. I don't know with
Carreras
this back line.
Carreras has played centre back in the back three. I bet, right, at Benfica, if I'm not mistaken. No,
I don't know, but the point is like
because he has
playing
prior experience, I
playing as
think.
a back
Hmm.
three. Yeah, playing as a back three and as a back four are two different things,
Back
though.
four is completely
Actually,
different. I know. But I'm
exactly.
just
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, yeah, um, like you said, the return of the likes of Rudiger, Militao, etc., is going to definitely strengthen our case, right, in terms of defensive woes. But again, man, Carreras as a player, like I was pretty critical last night as well. Him down the left flank, it doesn't necessarily fill me with extreme confidence. I mean, I'm a Mendy fan. Maybe I just want to see more Mendy. I saw some promising shit. I saw the same old Mendy shit. Struggling with his defensive duties. The Mendy 2.0, not the Mendy who was in his pomp, being defensively absolutely rock solid. But then again, he's coming back from a long-term injury. It's his first game in 7 months. I would like to see him personally get a few more game time to actually get to a proper assessment. But yeah, man, Carreras as a left back, nah. Even with the return of so many of our key players, even with Militao, who is playing out of his skin, I don't think our defensive situations are going to drastically improve apart from, you know, so some of the basics being, welcome back. Like guys who are, well versed in their position, playing their position to a normal level. Unless we step it up, unless we make a collective effort, I just keep saying this. We need serious help, especially down the flanks. Carreras is not good enough. Trent, we all know the story. Even Carvajal, who is what 35 now, 34. All these men, they need major help to actually get through games at this point. We used to rely on the likes of Fede to actually save us, Germany at times, but yeah, all these guys are susceptible to major head losses in pivotal points in games that can completely derail our momentum. So I can agree where Mbappe looks a frustrated figure when we concede goals. He was apparently caught on camera saying, of course, here we go again. I mean, why wouldn't he feel that way? Because he has been single-handedly giving us a way out of our games only for our back line to completely shit the bed time and time again. Let me get into a few other comments quickly. Ashik was mentioning Winnie may have played well, but I still want him gone. The dressing room, clique leaders, Fede, Vinny, Brahim, yeah, should sort of Endrick and Rodrigo are the other two in the clique. I don't agree with any of that. I mean, it's super harsh. Brahim, in terms of being a dressing room leader, Ashik, come on, wake up, man. He's barely in the team setup to be a dressing room leader. But I can get the frustration from from fans. It's very normal. Um, but yeah, Mbappe scored from a header. Let that sink in. I mean, I was super happy. That was honestly one of the brightest moments of the night for me. Uh, the hat trick, Farouk, it was insane. 9 goals in 5 games in the Champions League. When you look at that stat, you would think everything's rosy in Madrid, right? Top of the table in La Liga.
Yeah.
13 out of 12 out of a possible 15 points in the Champions League. Um, I thought the third goal was the most routine Mbappe finish, but the first two, incredible. The first goal, even though tried mark Vinicius Trivela, Mbappe had a lot to do. And the header, talk to me, Farouk. How impressed were you with Mbappe's overall performance tonight?
I think it just shows, again, like how much Mbappe has grown into the central role. Because when you look at all of the goals he scored, at least like I think most of all the goals he scored actually, like the first one, the second one, like he started from a central position. Like or rather like Vinicius was able to see that, okay, like he was split between two center backs. So like there is no way on earth that like the center backs are gonna catch him out. And it was a beautifully delivered ball. And as you said, like he needed to still do more, outpace the CBs and reach the ball and like give the calm and collected finish. And then on the other hand, you had the pitch perfect cross from Arda Güler, just
First time
laying
cross.
directly on the head of Kylian Mbappe. And also exactly, and also the great thing about that is like Kylian Mbappe understanding the fact that he needs to peel away from the defenders, like to kind of
Hmm.
take a step back, selling it
Yeah,
and then coming back and stuff like that. Yeah, that's the thing.
yeah.
Like like this is what you want to see from your center forward, since this is what the role that they have chosen to play Kylian Mbappe through. Like, and like more of this. Honestly, like this is just more of an all round performance from him. Like of course, like it would have been great if the assist to Vini also worked, and like it would have been 4 goals and an assist. But more importantly, like that ability to stay on the line, so on the offside line, just like beating that offside trap. Because as we talked
Yeah.
about earlier, like Olympiacos were trying to like play like Barcelona light and just push as high as possible, and we were able to exploit that with the pace of both Vini and Kylian Mbappe. So like that's absolutely great.
Mm.
And it's more of this, man. I really do hope all of this heroics of Kylian Mbappe can lead to some trophy at the end of the season, because otherwise it's just all going to be for nothing.
Mm. Mbappe has been a constant threat, right? Like even in games where we stand zero chance, he manages to find a half chance to do something. But I still do still do think he needs major help. I still don't think he works as effectively as he did centrally tonight. If it wasn't for, let's be honest, Farouk, let's call a spade, like you always say, right? Olympiacos' line was their biggest enemy. It wasn't us. It was it was actually themselves, right? They were. I know the pressure when it comes to let's say on paper they are the underdogs. Olympiacos are one of the giants in Greek football, right? But they are the underdog. Madrid is in town. They are in front of their fans. They can't really sit deep and play a brand that is unattractive, right? They have to play to the crowd, so they had to basically go guns blazing. So I respect Mendelebar for that. But if they had been a little more street smart, would we actually be 3-1 up in the first half, Faru? Personally, no chance. But that's just me because I've seen enough evidence of what's been happening this season. Against a line that is a bit more um, self-aware, we wouldn't find these many opportunities because we were beating them at will, because it almost looked like every time we broke through we might just go.
Yeah, but then I will counter it by if not for the approach they made, like they wouldn't actually have given us trouble the first 15 minutes as well, because like for the first 15 minutes they were supposed to be 2-0 up. So that's also like
Mm-hmm.
due to the approach they took, like
Yeah.
pressuring us, in our half, winning the ball quickly, and trying to
Mm-hmm.
take their chances as quick as possible. So I think that's also the
Mm-hmm.
point, because we talked about, even for the first goal, they had
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 attackers literally attacking three of our players, moving so quick and fast. So I think it's two sides to the coin as well. Like there is, of course,
Mm-hmm.
the one side that they played the high line, which gave us the chance to
No, I
exploit
agree
that, as you
with.
said. Like you can also even put it towards Nai.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with what you're
Yeah, go on,
saying.
man, go on.
Definitely, them playing the high line basically, uh, created the major openings they had in the first half. But I was more of the opinion that when the game was getting too stressed, if Mendeleev adjusted mid game, right, to actually basically maybe be a little more passive, instead of being super aggressive. Maybe after seeing Mbappe and Vinicius break through, three times in the last 2 minutes, maybe if they would have adjusted, I do feel like Olympiacos could have really given us a game, because at the end, even though we had so many openings and we scored all those goals, Vinicius' goal was actually called offside. Brilliant goal, typical Vini curler finish. All that happened. Despite that, they all almost cut it super close, right? You could see the disappointment on their
Yeah.
faces. It almost looked like a defeat they didn't deserve. I would feel for them, if Madrid wasn't playing them. But um, Vinicius's performance quickly, Farouk. Probably, arguably, one of the better performances this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it was one of the better performances of the season. I think we've seen this a lot in, like, when it comes to the
Hmm.
Champions League. Like we he kind of, like, steps up his performances. Like
Hmm.
it's he seemed more happy. He seemed to enjoy the game more. It seems to be much more fun in there. And yeah, like he literally like was having the fullback at his mercy. He was beating the fullback whenever he wanted, going,
Yeah.
out wide, cutting in and all that. So this is the Vini we want to see. Like this is the Vini that, uh, yeah, this is the Vini that can help the team. This is the Vini that can, help us win
Mm.
matches and stuff like that. This is what we want to
Yeah.
see. Like, it's one of the better performances. I mean, he's had really good performances also, like across different games throughout the season.
Hmm.
But like this was
Hmm.
one of the more composed ones, because like he wasn't fighting with anyone. He wasn't having wars with anyone. Just doing, let his feet do the talking. Like, and yeah, it was a great assist, which is also becoming a trademark for Vinicius Junior right now. The Trivela assist. So yeah, kudos, man. It was a great outing tonight.
Even for the second goal, the knock on, incredible, man. I mean, how many players can actually pull that off, right? You could
Yeah,
you could see the wing back of what is the wing back? What is center back? I can't remember. But the captain, Olympiacos captain, like people had to console him because it was insane what Vinicius did to him. That's what Vinny can do when he's on it, and when he's given that kind of time and space, because there wasn't 2-3 man doubling up on Vinny, right, Farouk? That's
yeah,
I
yeah,
think also a major difference when you compare it to La Liga sides who is hell bent on making something off us in a game. This was a European game, different dynamics, but yeah, credit to him, like you said. Also for the second Vinicius assist, the long ball from Chouameni, incredible. This is what Chouameni brings to the table as well. We kind of missed that. Also, I have to pick up Kamavinga's long ball as well to Mbappe. Incredibly well
mm,
timed, beating the offside trap. Um, yeah. Kamavinga looked decent, but at times, yeah, he had a couple of crazy possession losses, which I've gotten used to with Kamavinga. But yeah, when I look at Kamavinga, one of my favorite players, has he really made strides, over the last 4 years? People would say, he has had his injury issues, has been in and out of the side, hasn't really nailed down a starting spot. I would attribute that to him not really stepping up, you know. But yeah, I just hope he does it ASAP, man, because so many of these players, we know the potential they have, but it has to all come together for this side to actually do something. Um, Before they could rely on, like what Farooq said, in the Elche post-match. They could rely on the brilliance of Kroos and Modric to actually carry them through weeks. But yeah, it's now their turn. It's now or never for so many of them. Yeah, Madrid TV was mentioning Kamavinga was good, but he is injury prone, coming off again after the first half. Yeah, I was surprised, man. I couldn't believe it. I just read the tweet on Madrid Extra claiming that he had gone to see the medical staff, and reportedly, he had some sort of a niggle. Crazy, right? Guys are falling like flies, man. It's only November.
Yeah.
It's insane. This isn't even the Copa del Rey, Super Copa España, Champions League, carousel yet. This is only November, and we are, really, really, being short on numbers. It's crazy. She was mentioning so many long balls were gems. It was like watching Cruz at times. Ferre's passes were worse than my 6-month-old nephew. Yeah, man. Pressure is on Ferre. I just hope he sees the brighter side pretty soon. We all know Ferre can do it. Although the circumstances and the system isn't quite ideal, Ferre can really, really, establish himself if he really wants to, because we all know what he's capable of. Ashi was mentioning Kama had a cold apparently, and that's why he was taken off. I didn't know that. Right, Ashik was mentioning we only had one natural centre back. The idea should have been to keep the ball, dominate the attack, and keep pressure off the defense. I think it was in response to what Farouk was thinking, that Brahim offered, an attacking outlet that we sorely lacked. I can see both sides of the equation, to be honest. But yeah, quickly, Moon was mentioning why has Chabi. Why is Xavi not promoting academy centre backs when we don't have any centre backs? Shit performance. I haven't heard great things about centre backs coming through from the academy. At least not yet. I mean, there is a few people in Juvenile, etc. But nothing there in Castilla at the moment. But yeah, fingers crossed regarding that. And we all know how Fabrica is treated. It's an afterthought, let's be honest, unless someone is really, really tearing up the ranks like, Hakimi. Moon was also mentioning Vinny Brahim, Ceballos, they need to go. I don't understand Xabi Alonso's Brahim obsession. Can he come under this much criticism, Farouk? Brahim, I know he hasn't done much right in the last few months, but people would think, right, how does Brahim get more minutes compared to a Gonzalo Garcia constantly, right? I mean, that's a valid question.
Yeah, I get that. And actually, that also it just fits into the narrative that, we've talked about previously, that, like a lot of players get a lot of leeway because of what they've done previously, not because of what happens, what the merit is. And it seems to be the case, with Gonzalo Garcia. And I think that's one stick that the people would use to beat Brahim Diaz a lot. It's like, okay, like, why not Gonzalo Garcia? Why Brahim Diaz? So this is just a thing. And historically, like, Brahim has been a really good sub, and unfortunately hasn't been able to find that footing so far, honestly. And also, I think in this game, honestly, he wasn't able to also stamp his authority. I know it was so little time, but he wasn't able to stamp his authority and kind of give the players an outlet or like a sort of relief from the pressure that Olympiacos were posing. So yeah, that's just a thing. I think it's twofold. Like, Brahim hasn't been up to par, or the fact that he's taking away game time from, kind of compounds on the issue why we are being harsh on him in general.
She was mentioning if we go up against any English or Dutch sides, we are toast. La Liga teams in Europe are pathetic. I mean, it's concerning. It's getting to the point that it is concerning. I mean, not just for us. The whole of La Liga just looks like, they've lost their marbles, man, at this point. Because me and you, we grew up during an era where La Liga, not just Madrid and Barcelona, right? It was a Villarreal, it was a Sevillas, Sociedad, all these guys used to really, really go up against the top sides and really, fashion a result. I know the finances has completely changed. The landscape of transfers and whatnot has completely changed. But are you surprised by the recent results? The only positive result being Barcelona 2, Newcastle 1.
Yeah, to some extent, like no,
Mm,
because I'll say like eventually money talks, right? Like the amount of investment that you get in the English Premier League is insane.
mm,
So whether you like it or not, after a certain while, it's going to be so difficult, to compete with these guys,
mm,
honestly. But then on the
mm,
other hand, as well, like I mean, when it comes to like when it matters the most, like we've seen, like the English teams and the Spanish teams, like make do of the English teams. Like I mean, we've played Man City how many times in the last 5 years? Like how many times have we won? Like
mm,
so. Really, like we've played Liverpool how many times in the past 5 years? How many times have we won? So uh, okay, yeah, we lost the last two games. I feel yeah, last season and this season, but like when it mattered the most, like we've eliminated Liverpool and in knockout rounds in the Champions League final, similar for Man City as well, and all this and all. So yeah, I do understand that, but the point is money talks. But then also on the other hand, like I think Spain has actually done a really good job of even keeping up with these guys in the first place, especially considering like the amount of money
mm.
that English leagues are spending. But then again, still very early in the season. Barcelona
Yeah.
hasn't found their groove right. Real Madrid hasn't found their groove right yet. So let's see how the season pans out.
Too much hype, Arsenal beating Bayern and whatnot, Liverpool losing to the Dutch side. Was a final or something.
PSV team,
So
yeah.
yeah, nobody would really speak much about Liverpool. They would say, "Oh, Liverpool is having a bad season," but man, Arsenal beating Bayern, good, great. Can they win the Champions League? We'll find out. Because I bet you they can't. Right? Yeah, the hype, the media attention that the Premier League sides get just because they have had a good run in the league phase is honestly embarrassing. Because if we were to brag about Spanish sides actually, yeah, dominating every other league for a decade, it would be a long night, right? But people don't want to hear that narrative. Um, yeah, Ashik was mentioning. We only played well for the 30 minutes of the first half after the abysmal first minutes and the 10 minutes of the second half. Yeah, we just have phases, man. That's the problem, right? We can't really consistently put teams to the test. Um, yeah, Ashik was mentioning take Mbappe out and we'll be fighting relegation battle right now. We have no other avenue other than Mbappe. That is an issue. Yeah, it's it's something for Xabi Alonso to figure out because we have to make sure that Mbappe is on the receiving end of high quality chances, but at the same time, we have to also make sure that we have other outlets when he's being triple teamed, double teamed. Um, my answer, so many people's answer, is Gonzalo Garcia as the makeshift center forward, who is a guy who knows how to play the position, is decent in the air despite being only 6 foot. Incredibly aggressive in his pressing. I just love the kid, man. I just hope he gets a proper chance. I've been crying out for it for months. Even tonight, it was a game where his pressing up top could have helped us out a bit, but Xabi Alonso felt otherwise. I just hope he gets a proper run in sooner rather than later. But yeah, definitely Copa del Rey performances is going to really freshen up the equation. But let's slowly wrap this up. Moon was mentioning Olympiacos Highland gift us 4 goals. Otherwise, we were shit. I can't disagree with that. To be honest, I even posted in the boys' group chat, at halftime. Thank you Olympiacos for being naive because I honestly feel like if 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 a backline is diligent and they know what they're dealing with, that is Mbappe and Vinicius who can only thrive in open space. I think we get found out pretty quickly. Um, but yeah, win is a win, like Farooq said, man. 12 out of 15. Can you really complain? Maybe regarding the performance and how we have been looking. out of our depth against sides that we shouldn't really be looking out of depth. Apart from that, the results have been favorable to an extent at least. But yeah, Farooq, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's the end of a slump, right? Like 3 games unbeaten. That's 3 games without a win. Sorry, this is the end of the slump. So it was a run of 4 away matches, anyways. Came out with just 1 victory. Yeah, at least it came at the end. So we forward, look towards the weekend. Hopefully, we go back home and we can be able to rank victories again.
Mm-hmm. Girona, who are struggling, we should be beating them convincingly. Please, how badly do we need a 4-0 right now, right, Farooq? I would bite someone's hand off for a 4-0.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big up the chat. Big up people tuning in later on as well. Big up our sponsors, Talksport and Fanatics. Go check them out. But yeah, watch out for the preview. Hopefully, I guess Friday. I'll schedule it as soon as Farooq and the boys let me know. But thank you guys again for your support. Smash the likes. Subscribe to the channel again. On the road to 4K. But yeah, boys. Until next time. On to better days. Ala Madrid.
Ala Madrid.